Hey guys, Taki here. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new accessory for the Steam Deck that I've been looking forward to for a long time. I've been wondering how long it would take for companies to start coming out with replacement cases for the Steam Deck, given how popular it is. And this clear back shell is the first product to hit the market, and it looks like it is going to be a good one. Now, before we get started, this is not a sponsored video. This company reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in taking a look at this, and I already have a Steam Deck that I've been waiting to open up to look inside, so this is a good excuse as any to do so. So let's take a look at what's inside this box. Inside the box, we have the case itself, and you can see it's branded with my name. This is something that they said they were going to do on some of the early pre-orders of this. I'm not sure if this is going to continue for longer, but it is a nice touch to this case. We also have a set of tools, and there is a second box with a whole bunch of replacement buttons for the back. We're going to set all of these things aside just so we can take a look at the back case by itself. So here's a better look at that back shell. You can see that my name is branded in this metal plate that they have. It seems to be metal on one side, and then there is a thermal pad on the other side. I briefly looked at this before turning on the camera, and the case itself seems pretty nice. I was a bit apprehensive about what the quality of this would be like, given how difficult something like this is to make, but it seems to be a pretty decent product. For those that don't know, these kind of cases can be kind of difficult to make, and usually when you want a case that's completely transparent, which this is not, you can have a lot of molding marks that you would see from making the actual case. So to combat some of those issues, you can apply a frosted texture to the other side of this, and that helps to mitigate some of the imperfections that you would see in a perfectly transparent case. Taking a look at the other side, they have added brass inserts where the new buttons are going to go, and that's pretty cool because that's going to allow you to swap these out without ruining the threads inside these screw holes. In terms of quality on this thing is actually looking pretty decent. There's only a few minor marks like this one here in the corner that I'm seeing, but the rest of the shell seems to be in pretty good condition. But that's enough looking at the shell itself. We're going to get started with the installation of this, and the first thing that we need to do is decide the buttons that we're going to use with this new shell. So you have three different styles to choose from with this case, and the first one in yellow seems to be the stock experience, but I'm going to put that aside for now because I want to take a look at the other two because these are actually very different. So as you can see with both of these buttons side by side, these are basically opposites of each other, with the blue one being the bigger of the two. I've actually grown pretty used to using the stock buttons on the two Steam Decks that I have, but for this video, I'm going to use this red set and see how they are to use. So the first thing that we need to do is get the bag that's labeled with the screws for this, and then we are going to put this together when the shell is still off in its current state. I'm going to do that now. Here, and put it there. Good job, good job. Give me a like. Bing. Okay. Okay, let's come over here. Alright, just got done installing this with the help of my little helper, and this thing actually feels pretty good with the new buttons. It's a bit strange because I have so much time built up on the stock buttons, and I very well may go back to using the stock buttons, but I do want to give these a go in some games before making that decision. With this style of button, you can press down here or you can press down here, and both of them should result in input based on what I'm seeing so far. The next part of this is a bit more involved. We need to do a teardown on the back shell of a Steam Deck, and for this I'm going to use my original Steam Deck since it's the worst of the two that I own, and it doesn't have a back shell sticker on it right now. I'm going to lay down a cloth on the table just so I don't scratch the other side of this, and we are going to start by removing this back shell. So at this point, we're going to need to use this pry tool, and I'm assuming that this deck has already been opened up from the things that I've covered in other videos, so I'm hoping that it is not going to give me too much trouble. I'm going to start over here on the top and then work my way around through the edge. And here we go. That was actually a pretty painless process. This is actually kind of crazy. This is the first time since I've owned both of my decks that I've ever opened one up. So this final part is actually pretty easy to do. The only thing that we need to do is remove this sticker that's over the thermal pad that's going to go over this part right here. And that's actually a pretty cool idea on this, to try to transfer some of the processor heat to the back. I think this company is going to sell some other accessories, and they might be able to use this for some cooling with a fan, but for right now, this should be good for passive cooling this device. Anyway, we're just going to set that on to the device itself and clip it into place. All right, so we have the entire thing clipped on now, and the first thing that's kind of striking to me after I've spent so long using my deck is the surface texture of this is not exactly the same as the original. So if you've used your deck for a long time, this might take a bit of getting used to. Or if you use a back sticker, then this is probably going to feel no different than anything else. But I think what you do get on here is actually looking pretty good. So one of the cool things that I'm seeing so far on this is that they did a really good job of molding this back shell into place. It is a mirror copy of the back shell that originally comes with this device. If you guys saw my video where I talk about getting this original Steam Deck, you'll know that my front and the back shell were uneven on both sides, but now they are perfectly in line with each other, which is a strange benefit to get from using a third-party shell. It's immediately obvious to me that this is way better than it was before. Now, I haven't screwed the entire thing together right now. The only thing that I'm seeing is this clip right here, which would be kind of secured by this screw, doesn't clip in, or it does, but it doesn't stay. That's not really a problem. I'm going to screw this in later and see if it is still a problem, but I don't think that it will be. I do just want to show off these buttons because they work a lot better than I thought they were going to. They are super responsive. I'm just going to do a quick demo so you can see. I can press on this side of the button really easily, which is where I would naturally want to, but I can also press on the inside like I typically would on my normal Steam Deck. The good thing about this case is if these buttons end up getting damaged in any way, I still have 2 extra sets that I can use, which is a cool thing to get for something that is as cheap as this is. Now we're going to turn this on because I do want to see what this does to thermals. I don't think that we're going to have any negative impacts, but I do want to see if we have any benefits. But I do think this transparent shell with the transparent sticker on the front is a nice touch. Now this package also comes with a second set of screws, but I'm assuming that these are mirror copies of the originals, but I'm going to instead use the originals again, and I'm going to try to go back into the same thread that was in there the first time. I've talked about this before, but the easiest way to do this is to go backwards until you feel a click, and right when you feel a click, then you're going to start threading the normal way that you would to tighten the screw, and it should go into the same threads that were already there, so that way you don't ruin the plastic. And this is how that spot looks like after I've screwed the entire thing together. I think this is from the original owner that owned this device before they gave it to me. I'm gonna have to rewatch my original footage when I covered this to begin with to see if that's the case. But there's just a very small amount of wiggle room that I have here after everything is tightened up. Everything else here seems pretty solid. All right, so my deck has booted up. I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn. If we go over to the display settings, I have this set to 800p with no upscaling method at all, and our graphics are set to original. We're using 15 watt TDP for this, and I'm going to let the deck heat up after playing for about 15 minutes before checking back in to see how things are. Right now, I am noticing that the heatsink that we've placed over the processor is actually feeling like it's doing something. If I move my fingers over from their resting position to the back of that metal plate, I can feel that it is in fact doing something, and whether or not that's going to mean that we're going to get any lower temps on this is going to require us to do some more testing. So some more information for some of you guys out there. This is using the original fan curve because it's the one that I like the most, and you can see right now we're at 71, 72 Celsius on the GPU, and we are 73 Celsius on the CPU, but I have this set against a table, which is not the most ideal thing for an airflow situation. I'm going to come back in exactly 15 minutes after playing this, and we're going to see where things are, as well as how the heatsink feels on the back. Alright, I've been playing this for a while now, and I want to give some of my general opinions on this back shell. The first thing that I want to comment on are the back buttons. These things are way better than the stock experience from the testing that I've done so far. They're super responsive and they're very easy to press. The only comment that I would make is that I wish that they were just a little shorter than they are. The mechanism feels a lot better than the stock one. It just is a bit of a shock going from something that sits a little lower than this to something that's as tall as these are. The next thing that I want to comment on are thermals, and while there probably is some benefit having the thermal pad and the metal part touch the heat generating source, it's not enough that I'm noticing it, even though this is a game that I've only ever played on this exact Steam Deck. If anything, the fan curve is just going to accommodate any extra heat that is generating. I think if we are getting any benefit, it's probably just a couple hundred less RPM from the fan at any given moment. What I will say is the metal heatsink on the back of this shell is very hot to the touch at 15 watt TDP. I don't have my thermal camera anymore, but if I put my finger here, like that's as long as I can stand it before I feel like my skin is going to burn. So it is doing something. This area is usually hot at 15 watt TDP, so now some of that is being able to radiate out into the room. The ambient temperature in the room that I'm in right now is about 22 Celsius, so I imagine that we are probably getting somewhere under 5 Celsius or so benefit from having this heatsink touch the processor. As for my thoughts on this case, I think this is a pretty good deal for $30. It's better than the original shell that I had on this, given the fact that the front and the back shells are now evenly matched. And I like that we can swap out the buttons on the back shell. I also like that the thing is branded with my name, but that doesn't really matter. If you want to buy one of these for yourself, I'll have a link to their store down below. This is selling for around $30, and it's a pretty good deal. The only bad part is there's no front transparent shell at this point in time. That's going to be it for this one. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, remember to like and subscribe. Happy gaming, everyone. Taki out.